Well, we continue to move through February, and we are now into the book of Deuteronomy as we continue our look in the series Route 66, Discovering God on our journey. And last week we talked about how God shows up in a subtle way. Perhaps we don't even realize he's going to be there. But this week we're going to talk about one who certainly saw God, saw all of God's glory, and was an instrument of God's glory, and that being Moses. And yet for all of Moses' greatness, for everything that God allowed Moses to do, Moses was not allowed to move into the promised land with the people. Was Moses a great leader? Well, in many ways we could say yes, but the reality is Moses didn't get to go where he was taking the people. Moses basically led an entire nation in circles for 40 years. Moses was never able to stem the tide of complaining against him or against the Lord. Was Moses a great leader? Well, Moses certainly was great. He was acknowledged as a great servant of God. We still acknowledge him as that way today, and we should. But we have to realize that as great as Moses was, God is greater. That God's holiness and God's glory is what kept Moses from entering into into this land of promise. And for you and I, as we think about what God might want for us to do, could it be just a little slip that allows us to that keeps us from becoming all that God wants us to be? Now, thankfully, with God's grace, I'm not saying that we lose our salvation. I'm not saying that salvation is not a part of who we are. I don't believe that in any way. However, we all know that we do things or we haven't done things that God may have asked us to do that have kept us from becoming everything that he wants us to be. That's a part of Moses' story, and unfortunately it's a part of yours and I's story as well. So this week we're going to talk about Moses. We're going to talk about his death a little bit as well, but most importantly, we're going to talk about the greatness of God being greater than Moses. I hope you'll join us this week.